Alright, so this video will focus on Chapter 5, Section 2. And the first thing we're going to do to start or warm up is I want you to actually take this like 2x plus y equals 5 and solve for y. So I'll do this one with you, and then the rest you'll do by yourself. So if I have 2x plus y equals 5, and I want to solve for y, I have to subtract the 2x, right? So minus 2x on this side, draw my line, minus 2x on this side, and now I have y equals negative 2x plus 5. And now I have solved for y. So that's how you do the first one. So now I want you to pause this and try to solve for the various variables it's asking for. All right, so now that you've gone through and done this, here are the answers. So for this one, it's b equals a minus 3, because I would go through and I would add b. I'm sorry, I would subtract a from this, so I'd have negative a plus b, but I want to get b as a positive. So I'd have to multiply both sides by negative 1, or I could have actually moved this over first, so I'd have a positive b plus 3 equals a, and then subtract the 3 over. This one here, x equals 5y minus 12, c equals 7/3 d plus 4, y equals negative 4/3 x plus 8, and then finally, x equals negative 3/2 y plus 2. So I want to figure out how you can use substitution to solve a system of linear equations. Yesterday we focused on graphing. Now we're going to do something called substitution. So here's basically the idea of this. Whenever you solve by substitution, you solve one of the equations for one of the variables. And then I substitute the expression from step 1 into the other equation. And then finally I substitute the value from step 2, this thing here, into the original. So I'll show what I'm talking about. So if I look here, I have two equations. The first one I have is y equals 2x minus 4. It already is solved for a variable, which makes this very easy. The second one is 7y, or 7x, minus 2y equals 5. So now that I have one solved for a variable, I can rewrite this. So check this out. I'm going to write it as 7x minus 2, but now y equals this, right? So I'm going to plug this in. So I'll say 2 times, and I'll put down 2x minus 4, and then I'll go back to this pink again, and then this all equals 5. So all that I did is I just took this y value, and since I know what this y value is, I plugged it in. And now we have to distribute. So I'm going to go through, and I will do like negative 2 times 2. So I'll have 7x minus 4x, and then negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8 equals 5. And then I'll combine like terms, and I'll have 3x plus 8 equals 5. I'll subtract 8 from both sides, and I'll have 3x equals negative 3. So then x equals negative 1. So that's my value for x. Now I take this value for x and I plug it back into the original. So I'll put down 2 times negative 1 minus 4. And this becomes negative 2 minus 4 equals negative 6. So my y is negative 1, and my x is negative 1, and my y value is negative 6. So if I plug this into both of them, it should work. But let's just see if that works here. So I know that if I plug in a negative 1 here, that becomes negative 2. And then negative 2 plus negative 4 is negative 6. So that works. If I plug in a negative 1 here, I get negative 7. And then if I plug, let me just rewrite this here. Let me write it up here. So if I put down 7 times negative 1 minus 2 times negative 6, that should equal 5. So this right here becomes negative 7. This one here becomes 12, right? So plus 12, and that does in fact equal 5. So this works for both of them. And And that is my actual answer. So now try doing the same thing for this one, where you'll plug in for your y. If I look here, I'm going to substitute. And what's nice is I could just substitute right here. So I could plug in like 5x equals 2x plus 3, and then solve for your x. So when I plug this in here, I'm going to solve for my x. So I'm going to first I'll subtract 2x, and I'll have 3x equals 3. So then x equals 1. And now I just got to plug x into one side here and solve for y. So I'm going to do the shorter one. So 5 times 1 is 5. So my ordered pair would be 1 and 5. And that's where the two equations are equal to each other. Do the same thing with this one, and do the same thing with this one. You'll notice that for each of these, I've already solved for the variable, which makes it a lot easier for me. So I'm just going to plug in this 1/2 x minus 5 in for this y and distribute. And then for this one, I'm going to plug in the 5y plus 3 in for this x and distribute. So this one here, I get 1, 5, just like I did here. These two hopefully did by yourselves, and I got 2, -4, and 1/2 and -1/2. Now we're going to actually do a word problem, which I like because it makes it think a little bit more. It says you buy a total of 50 turkey burgers and veggie burgers for $90. You have to pay $2 per turkey and $1.50 for veggie. Write and solve a system of linear equations. So we basically have x plus y equals 50, because I have a total of 50 turkey and veggie burgers. And now I'm going to put down my dollars. So I'm going to have my $2 for the x, so 2x plus 150 y, and that will all equal $90, right? And now all I have to do is I have to go through and solve for this. So I have to solve for one of my variables. I think this top one is probably the easiest. So I'm going to put down, let's just rewrite this as x plus y equals 50. If I subtract x here and subtract x here, I now have y equals -x plus 50. So I just rewrote this top one into this right here. Now the reason why I'm doing this is I can now substitute this value in for this right here. So let's rewrite this one. So I'll have 2x plus 150. Now instead of y, I'm going to plug in this value. So I'm going to plug in -x plus 50. And then of course that whole thing will equal 90. And now I just distribute. So I'm going to take this 150 times -x. So I'll have 2x minus 150x. And then 150 times 50. If I just do that real fast, let's go through here. So I'll say 150 times 50. I get 75. So I'll say plus 75 equals 90. And now we'll combine this, and I'll start writing over here if that's okay. So let me just do this real fast. So I'm going to have my 0.50 x plus 75 equals 90. I'm going to subtract 75 from both sides, and I'll have 0.50 x equals 15. Sorry. And now I have to divide by 0.50, and x equals, so if I take 15 divided by 0.50, I get 30. So x equals 30. I can now plug this back in here. If this is 30 plus y equals 50, well, what does y have to equal? It has to equal 20. So y equals 20. And let's just see if that works. So I'm going to clear this out, but our ordered pair should be 30, 20. So here we go. So 30 and 20. And this is kind of the rules for how to do it. So last one we're going to do. So this one says you sell lemonade for $2 per cup. In orange juice for $3 per cup. You sell a total of 100 cups for $240. So again, I have my x plus y equals 100. And then I have my 2x plus 3y equals 240. So I'm going to go through and substitute, right? So I'm going to rewrite this one. And we've done this one already in the last one. So I'm just going to subtract the x from both sides, and I'll have y equals negative x plus 100. I can just as easily put down x equals 100 minus y. It doesn't really matter. But I'm just doing it this way. So now I'm going to substitute this y value in for this y here. So I'm going to rewrite this one. And I'll have 2x. So I'll say 2x plus 3. And now I'm going to substitute, instead of y, I'm going to put this down. So times negative x plus 100. And that all equals 240. Now I'm going to rewrite all this, and I'll have 2x. And then 3 times this is negative 3x. And then 3 times 100 is plus 300. And that all equals 240. So now I combine like terms, and I'll then have negative x plus 300 equals 240. Now here's the thing. I want to get this x to be positive. So you can do this a couple ways. The way I'm going to do it this time is I'm just going to add x. I'm going to say, oh boy, let's make this a little smaller. So I'll say plus x. If I rewrite this, I'm going to have 300 equals 240 plus x. I'm going to want to subtract 240 from this side, subtract 240 from this side, and now my positive x equals 60. And I'm going to plug this 60 in for x. So if this is 60, what does this have to be? To be 100? It has to be 40. So my ordered pair is 60, 40. And let's see if that's right. Here it is, 60x, 40y. And that is our